What is up, people? So this video is going to be a little different compared to what I usually make, because I'm trying out a new format, which is just me with a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to present in the background. And it's a very basic PowerPoint presentation, just a blue background and white text, and that's it. And basically my objective with this new format is to try and simplify complex topics. Like, for instance, I'm gonna talk about a topic from philosophy today. I'm gonna talk about beliefs. Why do we believe things? What are beliefs? Because beliefs form an integral part of every person, right? It determines their attitude, their points of view, their motivation, their political leanings or religious views, everything. I think it's important that we understand what beliefs are and how we determine the truth of beliefs. Yeah, let's get right into it. I'll cover all these. First, what exactly is a belief? Because we all believe things, so we need to understand what they are. And basically, they're just ideas that people hold in their heads. But unfortunately, we don't know if they're true or not. They may or may not be true, but we don't know the truth status of a belief. But we believe those things because we want them to be true. We think they're true, right? Nobody will actively believe something that's actually false, right? Like, for example, this room is dark. I wouldn't believe that because I know that's actively false. So why would I believe something that I know is false, right? Now, why do we have to choose to believe something? So right now I said, this room is dark or bright. Now, when I open my eyes, I get information as to the truth status of that statement. This room is bright, whatever. Now, that information gives me everything I need to know as to whether that idea is true or not. Unfortunately, we don't have this similar situation with every single belief we hold. Like, if I believe, hey, the Prime Minister of this country is a good leader, that statement, I don't have enough information to know the truth status of that statement. So we have no choice but to believe that statement simply because we don't have complete information as to whether that belief is true. I think it's valuable to define what do we mean by something that's true. What is truth? If we believe something to be true, what does that mean? Like I said, this room is bright. What does the truth status of that statement mean? When does that statement become true? For instance, when I open my eyes and look at the room, I immediately know the truth status of that statement. So when I look at the real world, I can gather information about the truth of that belief. And this is how I'm gonna define truth. Something that is consistent with reality. In reality, this room is bright. So my belief that the light is on or this room is bright is consistent with reality. So I define that to be true. Now, all this is a bit of philosophy and you can get this from a lecture on philosophy anywhere. But the issue is sometimes those lectures are either too technical, they use terminology that makes it difficult to understand. It turns the average person away from all that. And so I want to present the same topic in an easier to understand manner. But note that I've not formally studied philosophy. I'm not a philosopher, not studied philosophy from an academic perspective or anything. But I have read a lot. I've read a lot of philosophical ideas, and this is basically the understandings that I've come to. I'm sure some of you might know these topics way better than I do. I need your feedback as to whether I'm doing a good job, or even if you disagree with some of the things I say, let me know so that I can learn and maybe improve the ideas that I myself have and the ideas I present in these presentations. And by the way, let me know how I'm doing with this whole presentation, okay? You can only judge that probably by the end of this video. But let me know if I'm doing a good job with this presentation, if I'm actually making it simpler, okay? So, the definition of truth. I think we need to define truth to have a meaningful discussion about ideas or the truth status of ideas. We can't proceed unless we define that. Earlier, I just defined truth as that which is consistent with reality. But there may be other definitions of truth also. For instance, if I take truth as that which an authority has told me, something like that my teachers tell me is true. That is what I define as true. I can either trust the words of an authority or something like that which everyone around me lives by. So one example I can think of is the idea that if you're living with a partner, You have to be married to them. Otherwise, society will look down upon you. Otherwise, society thinks you're doing something more. That is an idea that everyone around me lives by. So I can define something like that as true. But I'm going to go with the most obvious or the most straightforward definition, which is the first one. Truth is something that reality abides by. Truth is something that is consistent with reality. You can think of other definitions of truth also, but this is the one that I'm going to go with. Now that we've defined what truth is going to be, how do you determine this truth? Very simple, we just observe reality. Like I just opened my eyes to see the brightness of this room. The same way I can observe reality to determine the truth of any idea I might hold, right? Sometimes simply observing is not enough. Like maybe reality never comes to a point where your idea is observable. So what you have to do is you have to manually create a condition where reality has only two options. It either has to behave as per your idea or it doesn't behave as per your idea. And that allows you to observe what is true, whether your idea is true. I'll come to details regarding that, but I hope this is clear. We call this the process of testing. Okay, we test to see if something is true or not in reality. I'm going to call these individual test cases that I'm building to determine the truth of something. So, for instance, if I have an idea that all leaves are green, then I just have to observe leaves, or I have to create conditions where I find a plant that has leaves of a certain color, and my idea is that they're green. So observing a leaf, observing a plant or a leaf is a test case. This is just observation. I'm not gonna call it testing if it's not manually creating conditions, but those things are what I mean when I say test cases. Now, I mentioned two options before, reality behaving as per your idea and not behaving as per your idea. But unfortunately, there can be a third option. Even though your test case or your observation comes true, your idea is not true. It's something else that's true. In the case of all leaves are green, I'm getting ahead of that idea right now. But that idea is not exactly true. Leaves are only green if they contain chlorophyll. But, and that is the idea that is true. So my all leaves are green idea is not true, but I might see a green leaf. Does that mean my idea is true? No, right? It could be some other idea that is true, that is actually true. And the idea that all leaves are green, which is what you're testing, that is wrong. And the other idea is right. So this is an example for that case. Here we have the third option coming, which is your test case, even though it came true, it's your idea is actually wrong. It's some other idea that's right. Another example for what I'm trying to show you is water on the road example. So let's say you see that the road is wet and your idea is that, oh, hey, maybe it rained a while ago. But it could also be that there was a fire truck that spilled some water. There was a water tanker maybe, and it spilled some water on the road. And everywhere that you can see, the road is wet. Or maybe there are sprinklers on the side of the road and they made the road wet. And everything that you can see is just a wet road. Now, you can of course test this idea further by going slightly further away and seeing if the road is still wet. Then you know what actually might have probably caused the wetness. But you can see how in this example, in this specific test case, even though your test case is coming true, your idea is not actually true. It's a different idea that's true. So I hope that's clear. Generally, when we make a test case, it can either be a yes or no test case. It only has two options, or it can have that third option, which is another idea being correct. Those are what I'm going to call multiple answer tests. A yes or no test case example will be that bright room idea that I had earlier. Whether that room is bright or not tells us everything we need to know if our idea is true. But in the case of the multiple answer test, say water on the road, we don't have enough information to tell us if the idea is true, even though our test case came true. I'll talk about that in more detail, but let's look at examples of yes or no tests. So the light is on, the room is bright, whatever. Another example for a yes or no test case is I have a box and I say there's a ball inside that box. When I open that box, either the ball is inside or the ball is not inside. I know the answer. There are only two possibilities and I know the answer right away. Another example could be behind the wall is my friend. I say I have a friend named Vishnu. I open the door, either Vishnu's behind the door or he's not. That's a 2-option test. That's a yes or no. So yes or no tests are tests which only have 2 possibilities. Either it is the case or it is not the case. That's it. And here are some examples for multiple answer ideas. Now I have an idea that all objects fall down. That may or may not be true. Just because I see one object fall down doesn't mean my idea is true, right? The true idea could be that there are conditions under which objects fall down, but if they don't meet those conditions, the object might fall in some other direction. That would be the true idea. Maybe those 2 ideas come true in this test case. So that's an example for a multiple answer idea, multiple option idea. Wetness on the road, leaves are green. That's another multiple answer idea. Now, universal theories about all things, all objects, all places, all time, those theories are of this nature. I shouldn't have written theories, I think. But universal ideas are the ones that talk about all things of a particular type, or all places or all times. So they're all multiple answer ideas, multiple option ideas. They're all things a single test case cannot tell you the truth of an idea. I've told you about multiple answer ideas, yes or no ideas. There are some ideas which look like they're yes or no, but it's confusing to determine if they're yes or no or multiple answer. One example is all humans have a heart inside their chest that pumps blood. You might think this is a yes or no answer idea. The word all in that sentence might give it away that it's actually a universal idea, but it seems like, if you, God forbid, kill a person and check if they have a heart inside their chest, you will find a heart. If they're right, they had a heart, right? That's because there are so many other things. Your knowledge of biology, your knowledge of anatomy and physiology of humans is what's informing you that we all have a heart. Plus, you heard the sound of your own heart. You can keep your hand here and feel your heart. So there are other things informing you also, but technically, this is a universal idea, because unless you check every single human being that's alive, you cannot know for sure that they all have a heart inside their chest, right? Let's forget the fact that you can hear a heart, you've heard your heart, you know biology, physiology, anatomy. Let's forget all that. If you don't know any of that, then you have to check and see if every single person has a heart before you can say your idea is true. Another example is all individuals have a father. Now, again, your knowledge of genetics, your knowledge of biology is informing you of the answer to this idea, and it might seem like a yes or no answer, but technically, you have to go to every single person, make a test case in every single person and determine that they have a father before you can say this idea is true. A single test case cannot tell you the answer. Another example, this one's a little even more harder because it doesn't have the word all or every in it in the statement. But if you have an idea that this berry is poisonous, of course you can eat it or you can feed it to some other living being and see if they have a reaction, which is death. After which you can say that this idea is true. But no, you cannot do that. Or that does not tell you this idea is true. The berry itself may not be poisonous, but in combination with something else that you eat, it might turn out to be poisonous. Or maybe it was something else you ate entirely that was poisonous, and not the berry at all. Or maybe you died for some other reason. Maybe the thing you fed it to died for some other reason, and maybe it's not the berry. But it happened to eat the berry also just before death, and now you think that the berry is poisonous. See if there are multiple options that may be true and not the idea itself. This is another example for a multiple answer idea. Now, whenever you have a multiple answer idea and the test case comes true, what can you say? You know that the idea may not be true because there are obviously test cases that you haven't tested. So what can you say when it comes true? Suppose your idea's leaves are green and you find a leaf that is green. All you can say now is that you now have evidence in support of your idea. Found a green leaf, that is evidence in support of your idea. That leaves are green. You can find many green leaves But until you check every single leaf, you don't know if your idea is true. All you have from each individual test case that comes true is evidence in support of your idea. You haven't determined if your idea is true 100%. You only gotten evidence in support of your idea. Now, to make sure that your idea itself is true, you have to examine every single leaf there is and make sure they are all green. This might require infinite test cases, which is impractical. Another such idea is all objects fall down. Now, this idea itself may or may not be true, but to determine if the idea is true, you have to check every single test case. See if every object actually falls down. The idea that may actually be true is that objects fall down under certain conditions. If all those conditions are met, then the objects fall down. But until you test every single test case, you cannot know if the idea is true. For yes or no ideas, your individual test case itself can tell you whether the whole idea is true. But for multiple answer test cases, a single test case can't tell you the truth of the idea. It can tell you the truth of that specific test case, but not of the idea. But a single test case can tell you the falsity of the idea. So for instance, if you find a leaf that is not green, you know that the whole idea is false. It's not just that specific test case. The whole idea itself, which is that leaves are green, is now false from a single test case. So a single test case cannot tell you the truth of an idea, but it can tell you the falsity of an idea. A single non-green leaf, or a single object that doesn't fall down. These are all things that can tell you the falsity of the idea, not the truth of an idea, the falsity of an idea. What do we do when a test case comes true? We test further. We keep testing to see if more and more test cases come true. But what do we do when a test case turns out to be false? Our idea is false. And we have to now come up with a new idea that takes into account this new test case, which has turned out to be false. And now that we have a new idea, test that new idea with more test cases. Leaves are green if they have XYZ. We know today that XYZ is chlorophyll. Objects fall down if they're less dense than air. And we have to test this new modified idea. So what have we seen so far? For every idea, try and create a test case. The test case may be true or false. If it's false, we know immediately that the overall idea is false. Okay. Now we modify our idea and keep testing it again. But if it's true, we don't know if the idea is true. Okay. We have evidence in support of the idea, but to see if the idea is true, we have to keep testing and see if every single test case is true. Unfortunately, there is also a fourth problem or a fourth option, and that is that a test case can never be false. It can be true, but it can never be false. Or you can't even create a test case in the first place. I'll give you examples for that. Now, suppose I tell you that there is a magical elephant in the room with me. It's right behind me. It's on camera right now. Now, how do you test this? You want to see the elephant, but I'm telling you, hey, it's a magical elephant. It can turn invisible, so it can't be seen. Now, you tell me, okay, fine. So I can't see it. So, but elephants have a strong smell, right? So I should be able to smell it if I'm in the room with you. But I'm telling you, hey, it's a magical elephant. It can remove its own smell. It can't be smelled, right? You tell me, okay, I should be able to feel around the room or sprinkle some powder and see it sticking to the elephant. I'm telling you, hey, it's a magical elephant. It can't be touched. So you can't even do any of those things to see if the elephant is there. I tell you, okay, how about if I sprinkle some powder on the floor, I should be able to see its footprints, right? No, it's magical. It's floating in the air, I say. Now, this is an example for an idea where you can't really test it. You can't create a test case for it. That is exactly what we call an unfalsifiable idea. An idea where you can't create a test case, or even if you do make an observation, that can never turn out to be false, or it can never be against your idea. And another example is that everything in the universe is created by this supernatural entity. What I can do is look around and see mountains and trees, and I don't know how they came to existence. I feel they may be created by some supernatural entity. And yeah, sure, my observation, my test case, what I observe reality to be is consistent with the idea that I have. The idea can only be true. It can never be false. Like, I can only make an observation of a certain thing, and it looks like it's been created by this supernatural entity. I can never say that this object has not been created, right? A lot of ideas in religion do follow this pattern. I'm just giving you an example. But such ideas are unfalsifiable ideas, but the test case can never turn out to be false. They're either unfalsifiable or untestable. You can't even create a test case. There are more examples for such ideas. One is midnightism, which is the idea that everything in this world came into existence at midnight today. Even my memories of a past before this midnight came into existence at midnight today. So even though I feel as if this world may be older, my memories of age came into existence only at midnight. Now, how do you test this idea? How do you see if this idea may be true or false? You can't. It's untestable. Another idea which I haven't written here yet is my green is not your green. The color that I see when I look at a green object is not the same color that you see when you look at a green object. Of course, you identify that color as green because that color is green to you, and that color which I see is green to me. So we'll both say the word green, but the color that you see and the color that I see are different. How do you test this? You can't pluck your eyes out and put it in my eyes and see what you see, right? And there is no way of making an observation that can't be perceived by your specific eye, right? So how do you create a test case for this? Think about it. It's untestable. Another example is the simulation hypothesis that you might have heard. We all live in a simulation. How do you test that idea? Let's say you do wake up one day with wires coming out of you, like you're in some matrix sort of tank. You could still be living in another higher simulation, right? So you still haven't made a test or an observation that you're not in a simulation. You could still be. How can you ever test this idea, right? Invisible dragon is just like invisible elephant. Now, with this whole thing, what I've done is I've introduced you to the idea of philosophy of science. And I've not used the word science so far in this whole presentation, but this is basically what philosophy of science is. An idea that's unfalsifiable for the reasons I explained. They're unscientific. Science doesn't deal with them. They can't be tested. The whole principle of science is to make sure that whatever we've learned, whatever knowledge we possess, whatever ideas or beliefs we have are consistent with reality. That's exactly how reality behaves. For that, we need to be able to test ideas. So ideas that can't be tested are simply unscientific, right? Any idea whose truth can't be determined, and remember, when I say truth, I mean scientific truth, the truth that is consistent with reality, that truth. Whenever that can't be determined, they're unscientific, they're unfalsifiable. Now, such ideas may have some philosophical merit. You can play around with those ideas in your head, but in the realm of science, they have no merit, right? You can play around with those ideas in the realm of philosophy, but such ideas are not scientific. I will elaborate this idea of unfalsifiability maybe in another video, depending on how this video does, how you like this sort of presentation, this sort of video. Let me know in the comments and we'll talk about that in more such videos. But right now I'm gonna talk about the difference between science and philosophy. Science is simply a subset of philosophy where truth is defined as something that correlates with reality. In philosophy, an idea's truth may have some custom definition, like the truth as per this authority, or the truth that everyone around me abides by, or there can be multiple other definitions. But science is specifically ideas where truth is determined by that which correlates with reality. Yeah, that's basically it. If you reached this part of the video, I want you to tell me how you actually like this new format. I want to know if this is working. Leave some feedback for me in the comments, please. And what should I add or change about this format? Is there something? Have I met my promise of making a topic simpler? Have I not done that? What should I add or change to do that? What should I add or change for you to like this kind of video more? Should I change the style of PowerPoint? But those are the things I want from you. And yeah, that's what I wanted to present in this video. With that, we've come to the end of the presentation, and yeah, let me know. I'll see you in the next one.